Hi, I'm Ron Dehaus. I'm the president of Covenant Eyes, and again, we're continuing our Facebook Live series here on Wednesday at the around the noon hour, between noon and 1 o'clock. And I'm just really happy to have with us today one of my good friends, Luke Gilkerson. Luke and his wife are the owners and operators, founders of Intoxicated Online, which you can find at intoxicatedonline.com. Luke also happens to be the author of over 2,000 blogs and ebooks that have been published from Covenant Eyes. And so, yeah, wow, that really is a well. And lately, Luke, you've become a rock star in the area of talking to your kids, parents talking to your kids about the issue of sex and when do you talk to your kids and what do you say to them. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I guess the first question I have for you is, when do you talk to your kids about
Well,
the
I don't really
topic?
believe in one-size-fits-all solutions, but I do think that generally speaking, most parents should be probably starting to have these conversations with their kids when they're entering into those elementary school years. And what do I mean by that? So certainly if you're in a situation where maybe you're homeschooling or something like that, whether or not your kids aren't around a lot of other kids, you could probably postpone it for a little bit. But generally speaking, I think if your kids are going to be interfacing with the world in any way, especially in a public school setting, that you need to be starting to have these candid conversations when they're 6, 7 years old. That is a good time to start having those conversations. What I mean by having those conversations, I don't mean one enormous, huge, long, tell you everything in the world about sex conversation, right away, right when they're 6 years old. I mean, starting to lay those foundational principles, starting to lay those foundational ideas so kids can understand some of the basics of what is sexuality? What does God say about sexuality? Anything like that. What is it all about? What does it mean to be male? What does it mean to be female? That kind of stuff.
Luke, you have some great information available on your website. One is, I guess there are two things to talk about: your a video series that you have, and also some books that you have. Perhaps let's talk about the books first. You have 3 books on this very
Sure.
topic. Can you just tell me briefly about those books?
Sure. The books are basically read aloud Bible studies. So if you're a Christian family who is used to sitting down and doing some kind of devotions with your kids, whether it be a Bible study lesson, whether it be devotions before they go to bed, or whatever, if you're already in the habit of doing something like that, it takes that same format and applies it to the subject of how do we use the Bible to teach our kids about sex. So it's letting the Bible break the ice on what sexuality is all about. It's letting the Bible lead the way. This is, I think, probably the most stressful thing for a lot of parents is how do I start the conversation? How do I start it in a way that's natural to us and to our family? And so since a lot of families already are in the habit of using the Bible to break the ice on any number of issues, we could do the same thing when it comes to the subject of sex. And so, for instance, the very first book in the series, which is meant for kids in that 6 to 10 age range, that study is really just kind of breaking the ice on some foundational ideas. What does it mean to be male? What does it mean to be female? What is human reproduction? What is it like for the baby to grow in the womb of its mother? That kind of stuff. So it's trying to introduce some of those concepts to kids early on, but using the Bible to do it, and always written in a very child-friendly language so that it's really accessible to little kids. The next in the series, which is called Changes, which is meant for kids 8 to 12 years old. That's for kids who are either about to go through or who are already going through the changes of puberty, and they want a sort of a biblical perspective on what does God say about puberty. Then the next book in the series is called Relationships. That one is for ages 11 and up. That's for those kids, those preteens and teens who are now starting to encounter their own temptations and sexual desires for the first time. And they have to try to figure out, how do I navigate that in a world that's going to throw a lot of temptations my way? So that's the series of books. And like I said, they're all read-alouds. So a parent doesn't even have to, they don't even have to try to figure out how to talk about these subjects. They don't have to figure out what are the right words to say and what shouldn't I say and all that kind of stuff. All that's been done for you. It's just a read aloud. You read the book. It's all written sort of as a dialogue. So there's questions and answers in there. There's pictures to go with things. If there's, of course, pictures and diagrams that are necessary for trying to understand something about the human body. All of that's included in those books. And it's a really user-friendly series of books that really has helped a lot of Christian parents. We've had tens of thousands of parents use it all over the country, all over the world. And actually, we're just translated several of the books into Spanish, and so we're getting ready to go into Spanish-speaking areas of the country as well as places in Latin America. It's starting to break out everywhere, and it's really exciting to see parents empowered to get to teach their kids about what God says about sex.
Yeah, Luke, I have to say that, by the way, we're with Luke Gilkerson, intoxicatedonline.com, who has produced these books for parents to talk to their kids about the issue of sex. And, it's an awkward subject for many parents. For many parents, it's not, but for many it is. But really for anybody to actually have those pictures that they can show the kids, age-appropriate pictures. And I've seen this material, and everything is age-appropriate. It's exactly what the parents want and need to talk to their kids. And so it would be a great thing for grandparents like me to give to my kids to show to their kids. But in addition to that, for any parents who are interested, as all parents should be, interested in talking to your kids about this very serious issue, it provides the tools necessary to do that. Now, you also have a video series, and the video series, How to Introduce Your Kids to Biblical Sexuality. Can you tell me about that video series, what the differences are between that and the books,
Sure.
and what your purpose for that was?
Well, the video series really introduces the concepts of why do I need to teach my kids about sex early? What do those conversations look like? And then how do I do them? So it's sort of a breakdown of how does it all work? Why am I doing it? What do those conversations look like? How do I do it? How do I break the ice? It's the same kind of philosophy we teach in the books, just as we do in the books, except the books are more of a read aloud. So if you're the kind of parent who says, you know what, I just need something I can hold in my hands where I can read aloud so I'm not nervous when I'm having these conversations, the books would be perfect for that. The video series is more for the parent, I would say, that needs to be introduced to the concepts of why and what's going on, and you need to convince me that I really need to have these conversations first. I know that's important, but I need to see the information. I need to see the data, and now then just tell me how to do it, and then I'll go and wing it and do it myself. But of course, a lot of parents who watch the videos, they still want the books afterward anyway too, because they want to have read-alouds. But I think that the series is really meant more for the parent to really try to grasp onto why is this important, what is it all about, what do these conversations look like, real practically speaking, and the books then are more for the parent to hold in their hands, to sit down with their kids and sit the book in the child's lap with them to read aloud with them.
Mm-hmm. So, if I understand, there are 3 videos in the series. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and they're short videos. I mean, you could finish the entire series in less than 20, 25 minutes. I think it's not very long. It's a very short series, but it's really helpful for parents who just want a crash course on why is it important and what do I do. We really, really believe. My wife and I, who've written these books together, we really believe that for most parents, because they're terrified of saying something wrong, and they don't want to steal their child's innocence. We hear this everywhere we go. When we travel and speak on this subject, we see the same thing all the time. People say, I don't want to steal my child's innocence by talking to them about something that is uncomfortable or something that their little ears shouldn't hear yet. And we constantly have to tell parents this, and just to remind them that innocence is not a function of information. It's a function of attitude. You will not scandalize your child by giving them information that is godly, biblical information about sex. You won't rob them of their innocence. Innocence is a function of attitude, not information. And that's what we need to be doing with our kids. We need to be inculcating them with and giving them a godly attitude about sex. And we can start doing that from a very, very young age. Not in huge, big, massive conversations, but in little doses, little bit here, there, just giving them, just like you would with any subject if you were teaching your kids. You don't sit down with your 6-year-old and teach them calculus in an afternoon. You build up to that over time. And the same thing with sexuality. You give them the foundation. Concepts first, and then build up to richer concepts that they can understand when they're a little older. And so that's what these books do. They more or less grow up with your children. And so they allow you to read this book when they're this old, this book when they're a little older, this book when they're a little older, and you really give them a well-rounded picture of what biblical sexuality is all about.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like this video series, How to Introduce Your Kids to Biblical Sexuality, that could almost be the title of like a 3-week Sunday school class. Would these be appropriate to show in a Sunday school setting?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure they would. You could easily, because the videos are very short, and you could use them as a way to just spark your own conversation in a Sunday school class. We also have, in addition to that free series, we have a lengthier video series for parents called Having the Talk, and we have 2 of them now. And these would be really, really good for like a group setting. In addition to an at-home setting, you could easily do it for a group setting, like a Sunday school class. What's nice about these longer videos is they're more of a walking you through all of the details. So it'll answer a lot of those frequently asked questions that a lot of parents might have. What if my child asks me about this or that? How do I address the subject of pornography or masturbation or same-sex attraction or whatever? It kind of guides parents through some of those questions that make parents kind of freeze in their tracks. They don't know how to address them. So the longer series called Having the Talk, which is available on our website, that one would be really, really good for like a group setting where you're teaching on, where you're trying to get some parent involvement and parent discussion. But if you want just the short snapshot, just the taste, that free video series, that free one, that free parter, that one's really good to go to if you just want the bite-size advice.
It's something that we really need in this sexualized society to be talking to our kids about.
Yeah.
It is critically important, as I know you know. So your books on this topic, talking to your kids about sex of all age-appropriate books, and the video series, How to Introduce Your Kids to Biblical Sexuality, are all available on your website, intoxicatedonline.com. And I would also encourage our viewers to go to the Covenant Eyes website, type in Luke Gilkerson in the search box at the top of the page, and you will see a wide variety of topics on the issues of pornography and sexuality that Luke has talked about over the years. Really a remarkable collection. Luke is an incredibly prolific author and speaker, and I'm envious of that, because it is amazing how much Luke has written, but not only that, how concise it is, how valuable it is to this serious topic. So I want to thank you, Luke, for joining us today, and I hope viewers will visit your website, Intoxicated Online.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you all.